for this push to the back of Dennis Schroeder while he was in the air. And here was Anthony Davis's comment after taking a look at this. He was not happy. Watch it again here. Take a look. Okay, and now take a listen to Anthony Davis.
Can't happen. Can't do that. I mean, they've been chirping this playoff basketball, but you don't push a guy out the air like that, two hands. It's a dirty play. Dennis could have really got hurt right there. You know, we keep it in between the lines. You know, we never want to, and I know Monty, you know, he's not that type of coach. I mean, he probably going to say something to him, but my coach for 3 years, but, you know, that just can't happen. You know, hard fouls, things like that, playoff basketball, we accept those. But, you know, just to blatantly push a guy, you know, with two hands out the air, it's a scary play. You know, good thing he's okay, but plays like that, you know, is unacceptable.
Richard, what do you think? Is that a dirty play from Booker, the way AD phrased it?
Yeah, look, it's dirty play. We move on. This is the issue. Devin Booker, this is your first, postseason. And teams are watching, everybody's watching how you handle adversity. Right, like Schroeder, if you pushed him in the air, if he falls on his shoulders and he is out, and we've seen this over the course of postseason, you would never allow somebody to do that to you. You would never. And for you to do that to a player, and especially you as a superstar, understand, you're a scorer. And people typically, they react back when players do that type of stuff. It's not excusable. Devin Booker knows that. But yeah, it's inexcusable, and just move on from there.
Well, I mean, yes, easy. I mean, I agree with you, RJ, but to be honest, I thought it was a flagrant 2, and this should have got a suspension.
Oh, wow.
After watching this film over and over again, Dennis could have tore his ACL or something the way that his legs buckle. You can't do that. And I feel Devin Booker frustration being his first time in the playoffs, and he's getting accustomed to the physicality, and he's a competitor, but you just can't have this happen. He could have really hurt himself.
He's lucky that he pushed him into Jay Crowder that actually broke his fall and took some of the momentum away. So we didn't even that impact would have been far worse if Jay Crowder didn't absorb it and redirect him to the other direction. That's one of those things. He would have gone another 5-6 feet the other direction if it wasn't for Jay Crowder.
Well, this is 3 topics in a row you guys have agreed on. So I think A, this is a record, and B, I am excited about seeing the love for the rest of this show. Stay tuned, because in addition to the love between Perk and RJ, we've got Nikola Jokic torching the games when officiated by Scott Foster, a fact that he made mention of after the game. Take a listen.
We got to try to, limit their free throw attempts. They're shooting a lot of free throws last game, tonight. I mean, if I was a betting man, 11 games in a row. 11 games in a row. And we'll see what happens. 11
The question is, final. Thank you for the time, Chris.
11 in a row is tough.
He wants to get that out there. They're trying to pull him off, and he's like, let me tell you that one more time. These are the 11 games that CP3 referenced. Paul's team was favored in 7 of these games. Some really memorable ones here, including last year's Game 7 with OKC against the Rockets. So, Perk, what is your reaction to this? Because I do want to note Scott Foster consistently grades out as one of the most consistent and accurate officials in the league. Those are what the numbers that the NBA says.
He is, Rachel. And look, one thing about Scott Foster is that he doesn't care who you are. He is going to officiate the game the way, and he's going to call it like he see it. To me, with CP3 going out and saying that, and I respect CP3, but I don't agree with his comments after the post game. When you look at Scott Foster, he's not afraid of superstars. He's not afraid to call those calls on certain guys. Even looking at this clip right here, he could have gave CP3 a tech, but he didn't. And on top of that, look, CP3 bullies his way through other officiating. He gets away with a lot of things that Scott Foster is not going to let him get away with. He fouls. He has hand checking that I'd be like, that's a foul. And he gets away with that, talking crazy to other officials. He's not going to do that to Scott Foster.
Yeah, and look, didn't we just see LaMelo get a technical for getting the referee's hands off of him? Didn't we just see that? How about talking about that? And look, I understand, Chris Paul, you are the best, in my opinion, the best like pure point guard of this generation. What you've done for the length of which you've done it. But we saw LaMelo Ball get a technical for doing this thing. He's just trying to make sure that you're okay, and you smack your arm off of him. These are the things when Chris was the head of the Players Association and he was a part of that. He would go and like contact and say the officials were doing this. No one cares, Chris, because at the end of the day, your hand, your hamstring, and now your shoulder have been more responsible for some of the struggles that you have been a part of over the course of the postseason than Scott Foster. You're too good of a player. You're too great of a player to be pointing out Scott Foster's, refereeing when he like grades out as one of the best officials.
Yes.
That means he gets his percentages right. So if you're losing games that this man is getting right, you can't look at him. You got to look at something else.
I mean, Rachel, RJ, think about this, right? Just think about this for a second. Scott Foster is as one of the officials in today's game. He's probably at the top for his officiating the finals. And we all know how crucial that is to make it to the finals, because you have to have that resume and you have to have that respect to officiate the finals. Look, I guarantee you could go back to players that are retired or stars that are currently playing right now, and they'll tell you Scott Foster have been the same. He officiates the game
Yes.
the same, and that's just Scott Foster.
Yeah.
That's
Old school
who he
rap.
is.
He reminds me of the Steve Javies. He reminds me of the Dick Pavettas. He reminds me of the guys that, like, when I go on a road game, I want to see Scott Foster. If I'm going into a road game on the playoffs, game 7, I want to see a guy that doesn't care about who's on the other team, what building we're in, or what the fans are saying. Scott does not care, and that's the type of official that I would want in a game 7.
Yeah, a lot of guys feel that way about Scott. And look, there are guys who feel the way Chris Paul does, and I have respect for him, respect for his opinion. And it must be frustrating to look at a number like 11 in a row. But this just isn't the way that the NBA grades these officials out. Scott Foster has consistently graded over and over again as one of their best. Now, I don't know if Chris is going to draw a fine for those comments. He has drawn a fine for his comments about the officiating before. I don't know about these comments I'm about to play you.